सम्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। Everyone together. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we welcome all the kids for the another episode of Mahabharata. I hope is the right number for the episode. Am I correct? Is the 33rd episode of Mahabharata, not the 34th? I believe it's 33rd. So last time we have kind of completed discussing Mahabharata, if you see. Generally, it is believed that at the end of the war of Kurukshetra, Mahabharata ends. But well, that's not the case. Duryodhana is on the verge of death. He has not yet died. 18th day of war is not yet over. There is a lot more to happen. And that is what we are going to discuss in today's session. What else happened on the 18th day? So today we'll be starting another parva that is called as Sauptika Parva. Sauptika Parva, Sauptika, Sanskrit word Sauptika means sleeping. So this parva is one of the smallest episodes or the parvas of Mahabharata, or the chapter or the book of Mahabharata, where particularly the activities on the night of 18th or the 18th night are described. Particularly how Ashwathama, filled with anger and rage, he attacks the Pandavas' camp in the night when everyone at the Pandavas' camp are deep in sleep. In the middle of the night, Ashwathama attacks and kills everyone who was there at the side or at the camp of Pandavas at that point of time. 18th day of war ended with Duryodhana almost on the verge of death. Everyone has died at the side of Kauravas. Only 5 people remained. Primarily 3 people survived, and yes, there are 2 more names to it. Does anyone know who survived at the side of Kauravas? Many times it is said 3 people survived, and sometimes it is said 5 people. So who knows who survived at the side of Kauravas? Of course, Duryodhana is out of the equation now. Duryodhana is no more living, is not considered. Okay, is that Madhavi?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, what's your answer, Madhavi?
Ashwathama, Shalya and Kripacharya.
Oh, no. Shalya was killed on the morning of the 18th. So you're correct. Ashwathama and Kripacharya is correct. But Shalya was the first one to be killed on the 18th morning. Shalya is already dead. And after Shalya, Shakuni was killed. And then Duryodhana was killed. He's on the verge of dying. Okay. So good tried, Madhavi. Great. Okay, I see there's Paki and sisters. Their group is dancing. Yes, Paki.
Prabhuji, Ashwathama, Kripacharya and Kirtavarma.
Okay, is there anyone else who survived? Okay, looks like somebody else also survived. Yes, Adi Lakshman.
Is it Bhishma?
Bhishma?
He hasn't died. He is only playing the bed of arrows.
No, that is considered dead. I was shocked with your answer. I thought it's just like there is there's a statement once Srila Prabhupada made. The whole story of Ramayana is narrated, and the audience, somebody from the audience asked, who was Sita? So I kind of felt like that when you said Bhishma survived. No. Bhishma is
Then
already
one more
out.
thing. Kripacharya was there, Ashwathama was there, Kritavarma was there, and one more was there. His name was, he was the chief commander of Yadavas.
Yes, very good. Oh, that was Kritavarma only, Baba. Kritavarma from the Yadavas army. All right, we'll come back to this. Okay, let's take one last input, Adhira.
In the war of Kurukshetra, totally 8 people could survive. 5 Pandavas, Krishna, Satvik, Yushtu, and 4 known survivors, Ashwathama, Sage Kripa, Kirtavarma, and son of Karna in the war of Kurukshetra.
Very close, very close. Great. So one of the person who has survived, who was not at the side of Kauravas, he had actually shifted sides and he has come to the side of Pandavas. That was Yusu. And after the war ended, Yusu went back to the side of the Kauravas. Okay, we'll come back to this discussion again. Let's proceed ahead. Looks like all of you have something to say here, but we'll discuss this more. Okay. Good answer, Adhira. Very nice.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you change the audio settings?
East. Okay, great. So let's, before getting into this Saptika Parva or discussing about what happened on the 18th evening, let's do a very quick recap of the 4 Parvas which we have discussed so far. Okay, from the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, the 4 Parvas that we have discussed. Let's talk about it. So the Yuddha Parva or the war Parva of Mahabharata starts with Bhishma Parva, which is 6th book of Mahabharata. Now Bhishma is a great personality. We have already discussed about him at length in one of the sessions. I'm not going to speak much about Bhishma, but this Bhishma Parva is the most significant and important section of Mahabharata. It covers the first 10 days of the war of Kurukshetra. 8th, 9th, and 10th day were particularly special. In this 10 days of war of Kurukshetra, Bhishma was the commander-in-chief, and on the 8th evening, Duryodhana instigated Bhishma Pitama, where Bhishma Pitama took a vow to kill Pandavas on the 9th morning, and he empowered his 5 arrows, which Duryodhana kept by himself. But Krishna reminded Arjuna of the boon or a benediction that Duryodhana had given to Arjuna, that he can ask him for anything, when Arjuna had saved Duryodhana from Chitrasen, in the Vanaparva. So like this, on the 8th evening, again Krishna comes to the rescue of Pandavas, and the 5 arrows were taken by Arjuna from Duryodhana. And on the 9th, there is a severe battle happens between Bhishma and Arjuna is on the verge of dying when Lord Shri Krishna breaks his vow that I would not pick up a weapon, and he breaks his vow to protect his devotee Arjuna, and he charges at Bhishma. And Bhishma surrenders his weapon, and he puts his weapon down, and he's waiting for Lord Shri Krishna to kill him, and that was surrender of Bhishma. On 9th evening, Lord Shri Krishna asked Yudhishthira Maharaj, Yudhishthira, it's time for you to go and ask Bhishma how can he be destroyed. And Pandavas along with Lord Shri Krishna came to Bhishma in the 9th evening, and they asked how Bhishma can be killed or destroyed. And knowing the secret from Bhishma himself, on the 10th morning, Arjuna and Bhishma fought, keeping whom ahead? Between the war between Arjuna and Bhishma, there was one person that Arjuna had kept in front of him. Seeing that, Bhishma had stopped shooting arrows, and that was none other than, who knows the answer? Who was that person? Okay, Madhvi, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Shakuni.
Shakuni. No, Madhvi, not Shakuni. Okay. Adi Lakshman.
The name was, he was Drupad. He was not, he was a neuter.
You tell me the name, you don't tell me the story. Okay, you lost your chance. Paki. Go ahead, Paki.
Prabhuji, Shikhandi.
Yes, Shikhandi, that's all. Madhvi got it? It was not Shakuni, it was Shikhandi, okay? So yes, anyways, that's how Bhishma Pitama was slain and destroyed. But Bhishma Parva is said to be the most important part of whole Mahabharata. Not because Bhishma Pitama was slain, not because Lord Shri Krishna broke his vow. Of course, that was a very significant action on the side of the Lord. Why Bhishma Parva is considered to be the most important section of Mahabharata? Why? What is that one single reason? What is that one single reason for which Bhishma Parva is considered to be the most important part of Mahabharata? Rishabh Dev.
Prabhuji, because of Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, thank you, Rishabh Dev. Yes, Bhagavad Gita was spoken. That was a part of Bhishma Parva, because of which Bhishma Parva is considered to be the most important part of Mahabharata. On the 10th day, Bhishma is slain, or we can say he is destroyed, and he is put onto the bed of arrows. And the next 11th day, discussion or description of 11th day of the war of Kurukshetra begins with the book 7 of Mahabharata, that is called as Drona Parva or Drona Parva. Dronacharya, who was a Brahmin by birth, by occupation, but later on became a teacher of martial arts, and he, according to Mahabharata, was a teacher of almost all the warriors on both the sides. He had trained up all the princes. Even the son Drishtadumna, son of Drupad, who was born to kill Dronacharya, was also the student of Dronacharya. So Dronacharya was one of the most powerful and destructive warriors of the Kurukshetra war. And the interesting thing about Dronacharya was he was invincible. He could not be defeated by any person on earth. Yet Dronacharya was ultimately defeated. That's the story in itself. So Dronacharya, until Bhishma Pitama was commander-in-chief, no laws, the codes of conduct that were decided were broken. But once Dronacharya became, or after the death, or after Bhishma Pitama was no more on the battle, or Dronacharya became the commander, then the rules were begin to be violated, or they began to break the rules. And the first time they broke the rules was on the 12th day of the war. So not the 12th day, the 13th day. So day 11, when Dronacharya went into the battlefield, Dronacharya had promised Duryodhana that I would capture Yudhishthira Maharaj, because that's what Duryodhana had asked from Dronacharya. Don't kill, capture him. If you capture him, then Pandavas will surrender, and we have no fear of Arjuna then. So Dronacharya tried on the 11th and the 12th day to capture Yudhishthira Maharaj, but he failed. On the 13th day, Dronacharya put all his power and might to arrest Yudhishthira Maharaj, but he failed. He could not be successful. And that's the day when Dronacharya had actually arrayed his army in a Chakravyuh formation. Okay. Oh, yeah. So he arranged his army in a Chakravyuh formation, and on that day, an unfortunate day, 13th day of war of Kurukshetra, a very unfortunate incident happened in the Chakravyuh formation. A very brave soldier, he was killed. He was the youngest among all the warriors. He was dearest of the Pandavas. He was glorified even by the Kauravas. Even Karna was defeated by this young warrior. Duryodhana was defeated. Dushasan was defeated. Even Dronacharya was not even able to check his power in such a way where Dronacharya had to say that 6 of us have to fight along with this single warrior. Only then we could defeat him. And yes, looking at all of your enthusiasm, I know that all of you know the answer. So I'm not going to ask you for it. Okay. So he was Abhimanyu. Of course, all of you know this is a very famous story. So Abhimanyu was killed on the 13th day. And on the 13th evening, Arjuna became so upset when he got to know it was Jayadratha who was responsible for this, because because of the blessing of Lord Shiva, did not allow Pandavas to enter the Chakravyuh. Arjuna took a vow on the next day before the sun set, I would kill Jayadratha. And we know once again how Lord Shri Krishna came to the rescue of Arjuna and how he advised Arjuna to shoot, how he covered the sun with his Sudarshan Chakra and so forth that happened. And the 14th day was the first day in the war of Kurukshetra where something happened so unique that has not happened before ever. Anyone knows what happened on the 14th day of war that had not happened before? Yes, Jayadratha was killed. But what else happened after the Jayadratha was killed on the 14th day of war? It had not happened before. For the first time, it happened on the 14th day. On the 14th day of war. So, okay, who would like to? Some of the kids are not visible to me, although your cameras are on. The lights are behind you, so you need to change your camera so you become more visible. Neil Madhav, yes, and Aradhana, go ahead.
No, Prabhuji. I don't know.
What is that? You raise your hand, then you say you don't know. Okay, Gargi, go ahead.
Prabhuji, the war took place in the night also, and Ghatotkacha was killed.
No, Ghatotkacha was not killed on the 14th.
But the war happened at night.
That happened. So we give you one negative mark, but one positive mark. So one correct answer and one wrong answer. Okay. But yes, the war happened on the night. It was the first time the war extended. Again, another rule was broken. The rule was as soon as the sunset would happen, no war would happen. And on that particular 14th night, Alambush was killed. The demon who was at the side of the Kauravas. And that's what had happened. Yes, the war continued on the 15th day like this. And on 15th day, Dronacharya was killed. 1 second, please. Let me share the screen again. And on 15th day, Dronacharya was killed. And it was not very easy to kill Dronacharya. It was actually his father and and the other sages had come and told him, hey Dronacharya, you're using celestial weapons at ordinary soldiers. This is a great sinful activities. And Dronacharya had become really maddened because of anger. He wanted to take revenge. He wanted to defeat Pandavas because he was not able to capture Yudhishthira Maharaj. Dronacharya was breaking all the rules. So on that particular day, finally Dronacharya was killed. And who was instrumental for the death of Dronacharya? What was that one thing that led to the death of Dronacharya? Dronacharya was invincible. He could not be killed. So how did Dronacharya die? What was that one thing that led to the surrender of Dronacharya? What was that one thing that led to the surrender of Dronacharya? Okay, Chandrika.
When he heard his son's death. But actually,
so it was Lord Shri Krishna who actually helped the Pandavas to destroy Dronacharya. Right, Chandrika?
yes, and it was actually
Pandavas that he would only give up his weapons when he hears about the death of his dear one, because that's what Dronacharya had told Yudhishthira in the beginning. And then Lord Krishna advised Yudhishthira and Bhima to go and kill Ashwathama, the elephant, and so forth. Yes, thank you. That's what happened. Thank you, Chandrika. Anything else, Chandrika, on that? Okay. And on 15th day also, the night continued, or the fight continued in the night, because Ashwathama was really mad when he got to know that his father had been killed by a cheating. Pandavas had cheated. They had killed the elephant Ashwathama, and they said, I have been killed because of which my father gave up the weapon, and Drishtadumna, my father was sitting in a state of samadhi. He came and chopped off the head of my father. I am going to take a revenge. And the war continued up to the night. And Gargi, it was the 15th night when Ghatotkacha was killed, not on 14th night. So Lord Shri Krishna had told Yudhishthira Maharaj, ask Ghatotkacha to go and fight with Karna. And that's the time Karna was forced to use his Shakti weapon, because Ghatotkacha was really destroying the army of Kauravas. Like this, the 15th day ends. Oh, what happened? Hare Krishna. Yes. And the book 7 ends. Next begins the book 8 of Mahabharata, that is called as Karna Parva. Finally, Karna. When did Karna join the war of Kurukshetra? On the first day? On the second day? When did he enter the battlefield? You don't have to speak up. You can give me an answer with fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which day did he enter? Rishabh, what is that number? 4 plus 2, 6. Let's see who gets it, who cracks up. Who would make the right combination with his fingers? Which was the day when Karna entered? That was the 11th day. You have to just raise your 2 fingers. That's all. I don't know why you have all your fingers up. Not the 10th day. That was the 11th day when Karna entered. Correct. So on 11th day, Karna entered the war. And finally, on the 16th day, after the fall of Dronacharya, he has been declared as the commander of chief. And Duryodhana was shocked when he saw that how Bhishma Pitama has been defeated, Dronacharya had been defeated, all his hopes now are on Karna. The 16th day passes by in itself. Nothing much major significant damage happens or no special warriors die. But on the 17th day, a very, very significant day where most of the army of Kauravas and Pandavas were destroyed. Only 1/4 of the total army remained at both the sides. In other words, of 18, 11 plus 7, 18 Akshauhani Sena, out of that, 3/4 of the warriors have been killed. On 17th day, Bhima killed Dushasan. And when Bhima killed Dushasan, he tore open his arm, and then he ripped open his cage or the chest, and he took out the blood and he put that blood on his face and the body. When everyone saw this horrible scene, they began to flee. Even Karna was terrified. He said, "This is not a human, this is a monster. Bhima have gone crazy. How can you put a blood on your body like this?" And then finally, Lord Shri Krishna said to Arjuna, "Arjuna, this is the time for you to combat. Fight Karna face to face and kill." Karna had requested Duryodhana on the 17th morning to have Shalya as his charioteer. And before that, Karna and Arjuna fought. Karna had defeated Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj went back to his camp, and then there was an argument between Arjuna and Yudhishthira. All of you remember? There was an argument between Arjuna and Yudhishthira, and finally Lord Shri Krishna saved again Yudhishthira Maharaj. Otherwise, Arjuna was about to kill Yudhishthira Maharaj. Once again, Lord Shri Krishna saved Pandavas, and finally, a combat happened between Karna and Arjuna. Karna was getting an edge at one point of time, and at that point of time, when he was about to invoke Naga Astra, the son of Takshak, Ashwasen, appeared. He entered into that arrow, and that arrow was shot by Karna. And with that, everyone said, "Alas, Arjuna is killed." The celestials were shocked. Everyone on the ground was shocked. Nobody was fighting. Only Arjuna and Karna was fighting. And when Krishna saw that Arjuna's end is near, then immediately Lord Shri Krishna pressed the chariot with his thumb. Not thumb, the toenail, I'm sorry. Pressed the chariot with his toenail, because of which the chariot went inside. Or in other words, the horses crashed on the ground and chariot a little bit bent low. Because of which that arrow, rather than hitting the forehead of Arjuna, hit the diadem or the crown of Arjuna, and Arjuna survived. Once again, Lord Shri Krishna saved Pandavas. And finally, Lord Shri Krishna told Arjuna to shoot an arrow at Karna when Karna's chariot wheel was stuck. And like that, Karna's life ended. And that's how the book 8 of Karna Parv ends, with the death of Karna and the end of the 17th day of war. And then comes the next book of war, that is Shalya Parva, that describes the 18th day of war. Shalya was announced as the commander-in-chief, And Yudhishthira Maharaj, Lord Shri Krishna told Yudhishthira Maharaj, only you are pious enough to kill this powerful warrior. So Shalya was killed in the morning. Later on, only handful of the soldiers remained at the side of Kauravas: Kripacharya, Ashwathama, Kritavarma, Shakuni. And finally, Shakuni was killed by one of the Pandavas. Who killed Shakuni? Who had taken a vow to kill Shakuni? And when Shakuni was killed, Duryodhana got shocked. He fainted. He couldn't hold the arrows. And he ran away from the battlefield into the forest and into the lake. And with his mystic power, he went inside the lake. And he was, he decided to run away because he thought there's no one left at my side. Even my mama Shakuni has been killed by Pandava. Which Pandava was it? Looks like all of you know the answer. So there's no point me asking you all. Okay, Shreya Aditi, yes, go ahead, please.
Shakuni.
Who killed Shakuni? Shakuni killed Shakuni.
Sahadev.
Who killed, what is that, Shreya Aditi? Yes, Sahadev. It was Sahadev who had taken a vow. Hey, wait, what happened? Nandu Tumara, be okay. Otherwise, you'll break the screen of your computer. Don't be so angry at Sahadev. Or don't be so sad at the death of Shakuni. All right. You'll also get a chance. Don't worry. Everyone of you get a chance to speak up. Okay, let's continue. Yes, Sahadev kills Shakuni and Duryodhana is shocked. He runs away and he enters into the forest, enters into the lake, and finally the hunters come there and they see Ashwathama, Kritavarma, and Kripacharya speaking to Duryodhana, and they go and tell the Pandavas. Pandavas come there, and then the fight happens between Bhima and Duryodhana. But something very interesting happens. Stay alert. Something very unique happened today. Somebody came to the war of Kurukshetra who had not come until now. He came to the war of Kurukshetra for the first time ever. Who was that person who came for the first time? Who knows the answer? Okay, Nandakumar.
Balramji.
Very bold. Congratulations. You gave a right answer. Okay, so on the 18th day, Balaramji comes for the first time to the war. Similarly, on the 17th evening, someone else had come to the war of Kurukshetra, or the land of Kurukshetra, for the first time. Who was that person who came on the 17th evening for the first time? Who was that person? Lokya.
Gandhari.
Yes. Gandhari came to bless Duryodhana. Some of you kids looks like super excited. I feel that you should not break your screen, huh? You look like too much into action, some of you. Okay, no more questions now. No more questions now. I would only speak, okay? Then you would sit peacefully. You'd be more relaxed and maybe a little bit in Sattva Guna. Okay. So Gandhari comes with an intention to really save Duryodhana's life. But once again, Lord Shri Krishna comes and he foils the whole plan of Gandhari and he saves the Pandavas once again. And that's how the 18th day of the war that we have discussed so far. Our discussion last time ended with Bhima defeating Duryodhana by hitting him below the belt. Again, on the instruction of Lord Shri Krishna, because only below the belt, Duryodhana was fragile, weak. Above the belt or above the waistline, Duryodhana's body had become like an iron because of the blessing of Gandhari. So let's continue our discussion ahead now. What else happened in Shalya Parva after Duryodhana was defeated? We discussed last time how Yudhishthira Maharaj spoke to Duryodhana, that Duryodhana actually blamed Lord Shri Krishna for what all happened on the war of Kurukshetra. He said, it is because of you, Krishna, that we have lost so many lives. It is you who cheated. And we discussed all that. And Lord Shri Krishna chastised Duryodhana, saying that you blame me. I came to you as a peace messenger asking for 5 villages, but you did not agree. It is your fault. You are the one. Very one important thing. Let me see if you kids remember. Lord Shri Krishna said many things to Duryodhana, and I had particularly specified one particular thing. And I said this is a very important lesson for all of us. Lord Shri Krishna said, Duryodhana, you have lost everything because of one particular thing that you would not do at all. Yes, Jagannath ji.
Respect the females.
What happened, Jagannath?
Means he did not respect Draupadi.
Huh? Okay. Okay, Jagannath. Sriram, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Prabhuji, he did not respect the elders.
Yes.
Bhishma Pitama and Drona and all the sages
Or
always
anyone.
advised him.
Yeah, for anyone, Lord Shri Krishna said, Duryodhana, your situation today is because of you. Because you never ever respected your elders. So very important thing for all of us, all the kids and every one of us, we should always listen to our elders and we should always try to follow what they say. It is always in our good interest. At least at your age, for you right now, we should try to follow what our parents and our well-wishers, our seniors try to tell us how we should live our life. If not, what happened to Duryodhana is what happens to everyone who do not heed or pay attention to the good advisors. So like this, Lord Shri Krishna told Duryodhana, this is why you're responsible. And then Lord Shri Krishna and Pandavas walked away from there. So what happened after this is what we're going to discuss now. So the night or the day 18th, at this point of time, Lord Shri Krishna said, hey Pandavas, according to the codes of conduct of war, when one party wins the war, they go to the camp of the enemy and they take and collect all the wealth, whatever is left behind, and bring it back to their camp. And along with that, the winning party, some of the princes from the winning party spends their first night at the camp of the enemy. So Pandavas and all of you, let's go to the side of Kauravas and let's see who all are remaining there. With that, Lord Shri Krishna brought everyone at the camp of Kauravas. And now something very interesting happened. Everyone came out of the chariot. Everyone, except for Krishna and Arjuna. So generally, now, Arjuna is waiting for Krishna to come down because first of all, the charioteer will get down and then the person sitting on the chariot will come down. But here, Lord Shri Krishna tells Arjuna, please get down from the chariot. So Arjuna is surprised. It has never happened before, where Krishna would say Arjuna like this, that you get down first. And then Lord Shri Krishna told Arjuna, Arjuna, please take your Gandiva bow and 2 sets of quivers. With that, you get down from the chariot. So Arjuna was really surprised what Lord Krishna means by this. So he didn't ask anything. He got down from his chariot. And then Lord Shri Krishna told everyone, all of you, please move behind. Go at a distance from this chariot. So everyone was a little alarmed. What happened? Why Lord Shri Krishna is speaking like this? So please remember, this was not an ordinary chariot that Arjuna had. Arjuna was given this chariot by Agni Devta because Arjuna had rendered service for Agni Devta at Khandav Dahan, when the Khandav one was burned. So this was a celestial chariot. And then suddenly Lord Shri Krishna jumped from the chariot. And as soon as Lord Shri Krishna jumped from the chariot, everyone was shocked. The celestial chariot that Arjuna had, it was immediately put to fire. Along with the horses, the whole chariot was burned to ashes within seconds. And everyone is frightened. What happened? So Arjuna looked at Krishna. He said, my dear Lord, what happened? And then Lord Shri Krishna said something very, very important, which I want all of you to hear. So when when Arjuna came off, then Hanumanji left from the flag, and then Lord Shri Krishna jumped off. At that point of time, When Arjuna asked, my dear Lord, what happened? The Lord Shri Krishna said, Arjuna, today your chariot was struck by the most powerful celestial weapons. It was supposed to be destroyed long before, but because of my presence on the chariot, your chariot was not destroyed. At that point of time, Yudhishthira Maharaj began to cry. He showered his tears of love at Lord Shri Krishna and said, my dear Lord, once again you saved the life of Arjuna, once again you saved the lives of all of us. This whole war we have won only because of your kindness, compassion and direction, otherwise it was not possible for us to win. And then Lord Shri Krishna looked at Arjuna and he said, well, I just fulfilled my promise. So all the Pandavas were surprised. What was the promise of Lord Shri Krishna? And then Lord Shri Krishna looked at Arjuna and he reminded Arjuna that how Arjuna, when Lord Shri Krishna had come to meet Pandavas once, that time Arjuna had made a statement. He said, my dear Lord Shri Krishna, you are my beloved friend, you are my beloved worshipable deity, you are my beloved brother, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please always protect me. So Lord Shri Krishna said like this, Arjuna requested Lord Shri Krishna to protect him. And then Krishna said, at that point of time, I told Arjuna, so be it. And then Krishna said, so I have always kept my promise, and I kept my promise at this point of time also. At that time, Arjuna was in tears. My dear Lord, you are so compassionate, kind to all of us. And then Yudhishthira said, my dear Lord, we all know your divinity. All the sages have declared you the Supreme Personality of Godhead, either be Markandeya, Rishi, Narad Muni, Vyasadeva, whoever it is. In fact, Vyasadeva once told me something very, very interesting. And the same thing was spoken by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra at the end of Bhagavad Gita. When Dhritarashtra asked, hey, Sanjaya, what is your conclusion? What do you think is going to happen to the war of Kurukshetra? And this is what Sanjaya spoke. And this is the same thing that Vyasadeva had spoken to Yudhishthira Maharaj, where Vyasadeva told, hey Yudhishthira, wherever there is Krishna, there is always victory. There is always victory. And Yudhishthira said, my dear Lord, because of you, we all have survived. Yatra Yogeshwaraha Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanudharaha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. And this is what Sanjaya speaks to Dhritarashtra. Hey, blind person, you fool, you're not going to win the war, neither your sons. Only Arjun and Krishna, the Pandavas, will win the war, because wherever there is Arjun and Krishna, there are four things: Shri, Vijaya, Bhutir, and Niti, which means victory, opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. Like that, Sanjaya speaks to the Dhritarashtra, and this is how Bhagavad Gita concludes. This is the last verse of Bhagavad Gita. After this, Lord Shri Krishna said to Pandavas, let us enter into the royal tent of Kauravas. Let's see what do we have there. So Lord Shri Krishna and Pandavas entered into the royal tent of Kauravas. When they entered there, they saw one person sitting in the corner with his hands on his head, and he's crying. And Yudhishthira Maharaj went to that person. He lifted that person and he embraced that person very tightly. Does anyone know who was this person at the side of Kaurava's camp? When Pandavas entered, Yudhishthira Maharaj saw this person. Who was this person? Who Yudhishthira Maharaj picked him up from his own hand and embraced him. Who was this person? Who has not spoken so far? Let's see. Who has not spoken? Vrij Priya. Yes, please go ahead.
Yuyutsu.
Yes, it was Yuyutsu, who after the end of the war went back at the Kauravas camp, and he was crying because all his brothers have been killed. So Yuyutsu was not the son of Gandhari. Yusu was born from the maid servant of Gandhari. And the story, a little story about Yusu, won't go into much details. Dhritarashtra wanted to have a son. And he wanted to have a son before Pandu could have a son. Because if Dhritarashtra could have a son before, then he could say he's the eldest son and he would become the next king. But unfortunately, Gandhari had been pregnant for a long, long time and she is not able to give birth. So Dhritarashtra was becoming very, very anxious and very nervous. At that point of time, he begot a child in the womb of a maid servant of Gandhari, and who gave a birth not before Duryodhana. In fact, she gave a birth right after Duryodhana, but before the Shasan. So this son born from the womb of the maid servant of Gandhari was a son of Dhritarashtra, and his name was Yuyusu. So like this, Yudhishthira Maharaj meets with Yusu, he consoles him, and he tells Yusu, please go to Hastinapur. Please, go and speak to Dhritarashtra and Gandhari and tell them what all had happened. So immediately Yusu climbed up his chariot and left for Hastinapur. At that point of time, Lord Shri Krishna spoke to Yudhishthira Maharaj and he said, Yudhishthira Maharaj, according to the codes of war, the party who wins, some of the soldiers or the warriors from that party or the winning party should spend their first night at the camp of the enemy. So here is my suggestion. All the Pandavas can stay back here, and Yudhishthira Maharaj send all your army back to your camp. So Yudhishthira Maharaj immediately sent the whole army back to his own camp, and here 5 Pandavas along with Lord Shri Krishna stayed back at Kaurava's camp. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj began to speak with Lord Shri Krishna. He said, my dear Lord, I know all our enemies are destroyed, but I'm scared of one person. And you are the only one who could help me. And this one person, our no weapons, none of us, none of the 5 Pandavas have any strength to fight with this one person. And this one person is very, very powerful. And this one person can destroy all of us. Please, you are the only one who could save us from this one person. Please go and meet this person and ask for forgiveness from our side. Who was this one person? Hemangi and Dhruva.
Ashwatthama.
Oh, no, not Ashwatthama. Not Ashwatthama. Why would Yudhishthira Maharaj ask Lord Shri Krishna to go and ask forgiveness from Ashwatthama? Ashwatthama was himself a simple person. Who was that person? Who was that person to whom Yudhishthira Maharaj was so scared and he told Krishna, please go and you ask forgiveness on our side and tell them to forgive us for what had happened in the war. Who has not given an answer? Dhruva, yes, go ahead.
Gandhari?
Yes, that was Gandhari. Yudhishthira Maharaj was very scared of the ascetic powers of Gandhari. He was worried that Gandhari would curse Pandavas, and Yudhishthira Maharaj was convinced if Gandhari have to curse them, none of them would survive. So because of this, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Lord Shri Krishna, please, you should go to Hastinapur, meet with Gandhari, pacify her, because none of us can go and meet her. Once Gandhari gets to know how all her sons had been killed by Bhima, I am pretty sure at least she is going to destroy Bhima. And who knows, she may destroy all of us. Like this, Yudhishthira Maharaj said that she is a very pious queen, she is a great ascetic, and she had accumulated a lot of ascetic powers because of her austerities. Among all of us, O Keshava, it is only you who could save us. Please go. At that point of time, Lord Shri Krishna mounted his chariot and immediately left for Hastinapur to meet with Gandhari and with Dhritarashtra. Like this, Lord Shri Krishna left for Hastinapur, or let's just say he went and reached Hastinapur, and immediately he went into the palace of Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, went and met them, and Lord Shri Krishna narrated everything that had happened at the war of Kurukshetra. Gandhari and Dhritarashtra began to cry. They were inconsolable. They just could not be pacified. And then Lord Shri Krishna said, please try to understand Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. It was not mistake of Pandavas. it was mistake of your own son. Your son was so adamant and so arrogant that he was not willing to return the kingdom which was dutifully, which belonged to Pandavas. Even he was so cruel that he was not willing to give even 5 villages. And Gandhari, you only know, so many times you had chastised Duryodhana for his sinful activities. Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, did you forget what Duryodhana did to Draupadi, your own daughter-in-law, how he behaved? Like this, Krishna spoke to Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, and then Lord Shri Krishna said, please try to understand. You might have lost your 100 sons, but you still have 5 sons in the form of Pandavas. They love you very much. So please forgive them. Don't be angry at them. Please accept them as your sons. At that point of time, Dhritarashtra and Draupadi was consoled and pacified by Lord Shri Krishna's word. And then Lord Shri Krishna left Hastinapur to return back to Kurukshetra. With this, the 9th book of Shalya Parva ends now. And after this begins the 10th book, which is called as Saptika Parva, which means what happened on the night of 18th. Saptika means sleeping. And as I said before, Ashwathama, out of his anger and envy for Pandavas, he attacks the camp of Pandavas and he kills everyone. What happens and how did Ashwathama reach the camp of Pandavas in the night, and how he was able to kill everyone, and then how did Duryodhana reacted to Ashwathama's action, how did Duryodhana left his body, then how did Pandavas reacted to Ashwathama's sinful act of killing, and how come Kripacharya, who was a rishi, how could he support Ashwathama in such a sinful act to kill a warrior when he's sleeping, when he's unarmed, is such a sinful act. So how could Kripacharya allow Ashwathama to do it? And all that discussion we'll have it when we meet tomorrow. For today, we pause here. Our time is up. And in today's session particularly, we gave you the overview of all the 18 days of war, of all those significant parvas, Bhishma Parva, Drona Parva, Karna Parva, Shalya Parva. We just concluded with Shalya Parva. We're talking about what we had not discussed last session. And tomorrow we'll discuss Saptika Parva and conclude Saptika Parva, which will finish the 10th book. And the next week when we meet, which is Krishna Janmashtami week, I believe the next Tuesday and Wednesday, Lord Shri Krishna's Janmashtami is there. So when we meet on Thursday and Friday, we'll speak about the 11th and the 12th book. So Mahabharata has not ended. There's a lot more to go to Mahabharata. We have just finished 50% of Mahabharata because we have just finished the 9th book and there are total 18 books. So when we finish the half of Mahabharata, yet there is a lot more to go. Ahead would be a discussion of the 36 years of rule of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And of course, Bhishma Pitama is still alive. He is not yet left. So there will be a discussion of the departure of Yudhishthira Maharaj. There will be a description about the appearance of Parikshit Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj becoming the king and the Pandavas leaving for Badrinath again to go to heaven. So there are a lot of things going to happen in Mahabharata. So stay tuned. And at my side, I will try my best to complete the whole Mahabharata with all of you if lockdown continues like this. If I'm not able to travel outside, then I'll continue this weekly Mahabharata sessions with all of you like that. Okay, so with that, we end here for our Mahabharata session. Very, very thankful for all of you to join us. So before we conclude for today's discussion,